It's interesting that that word avenge means to take vengeance, to find a recompense for things that were done to you in the past. And that caused me to think, wow, you know, this culture that we're living in, these people are actually woke Avengers. These are the woke Avengers, meaning that they are out to avenge the wrongs that they perceive, some real, some not, that were done to historical people of color or to whatever quote unquote marginalized group they want to place that label on, whatever marginalized group that they're referring to. Thank you so much for liking your comments and subscribing to the channel. Please share this with your friends. Smash that like button. Smash the subscription bell. Share this with everybody you know. We're trying to make sure people understand that they're not victims, that they are empowered for greatness, and all this stuff that's out here that's telling them otherwise is false and will not benefit them in the end. So please, I appreciate that. Share that. You know, I wasn't much of a comic book guy growing up, but I've really taken a liking to the Avengers movies. All the movies that Marvel Studios have produced have actually been very good. I've kind of followed along the plot lines all the way up through the latest ones that they've completed with the Infinity Saga, all those things. I mean, just the whole plot line, how they brought different and disparate parts together to create a team was something that was intriguing to me. And one of my favorite movies, of course, is The Avengers, where you have Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, the original Avengers movie. Those movies, and Fury, and those folks. And so, as I was thinking about the movie, one of the last movies that I saw, it's interesting that that word avenge means to take vengeance, to find a recompense for things that were done to you in the past. And that caused me to think, wow, this culture that we're living in, these people are actually woke Avengers. These are the woke Avengers, meaning that they are out to avenge the wrongs that they perceive, some real, some not, that were done to historical people of color or to whatever quote unquote marginalized group they want to place that label on, whatever marginalized group that they're referring to. And so that made me think, the Woke Avengers, each participant, each member of the Woke Avengers matches closely to the Avengers that you see in the movies and the Avengers that you read about in the comic books. So today we're going to talk about educational justice and which member of the Avengers aligns with educational justice. Of course, Dr. Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. But we're not going to refer to his Hulk persona per se, but we could. But we're going to talk about the intelligence of Dr. Banner and how that plays into educational justice. Now you have to understand, whenever the woke or cultural Marxists talk about justice, what they really mean is vengeance. Like I said before, what they're really referring to is vengeance. I mean, they're looking to use government or institutions to forcibly bring about equality. They want to use government or institutions to forcibly bring about equality. Now, the Woke Avengers idea of justice is different than what God says about justice. So let's take a look at some of the things where in the Word of God we talk about justice. For example, Micah 6:8, where it says, "He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." And here's another verse that's important to us. In Romans chapter 12, starting around verse 18. "If it be possible, as much as lies in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself." You see that? "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself, but give place unto wrath." I mean, wrath has its place. I mean, we're human beings, we get upset, but wrath should not control us, wrath should not drive us, wrath should not be the sustaining force of our lives. "For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." And then one more verse I want to reference. This talks about our behavior, where it talks about we should be slow to speak, slow to wrath, quick to hear. Slow to speak, slow to wrath, quick to hear. This comes from James 1:19 verse 20. "Because the wrath of man does not lead to the righteousness of God." And that's the key point. The wrath of man does not lead to the righteousness of God. And so to break that down even further, you have to understand what the word means in terms of vengeance, in terms of avenge. It means, like I mentioned before, to retaliate, to vindicate, retaliate, or punish. The Woke Avengers want to retaliate. They want to punish those they consider as being white supremacists, those they consider as being in charge of a systemic racist system. They want to punish them. That's their whole goal, is to punish them, to bring about equality. So that's why they have all of these different theories now that are running rampant in our school systems and in our educational institutions. The reason why they're doing it is because they want to forcibly, like I mentioned before, they want to forcibly produce equity, because they want to punish the white man for all the injustices that they have brought upon people of color and other quote unquote marginalized people in the past. So they're going to punish them. That's why I call them the Woke Avengers. They're going to punish. They're going to get recompense. They're going to get their pound of flesh, if you will. They're going to retaliate and get that pound of flesh that they're looking for. They're going to get that retribution that they want. They're going to get that retribution out of this system. And you know how they're going to do it? They're going to utilize our children to do it. See, that's the trick they're playing. They're going to utilize our children to retaliate and to vindicate and to get that retribution that they're looking for. That's why you have things such as critical race theory. That's why they're teaching things like critical race theories in the school, to tell that white child, you are an oppressor. You are wrong. To tell that black child, that quote unquote marginalized child, you are oppressed. To point the finger at that white child and say, he's the one that has taken everything from you. Avenge me. That's what they're saying. Avenge the ancestors that were in bondage because of the white man. Avenge them. And so they're teaching that. They're teaching that hate in our school system. And it's not just critical race theory. It's social emotional learning. They're teaching them about transgenderism, about gender identity. They're teaching gender studies in elementary school. They are teaching gender studies in elementary school. And it's all about what they call educational justice. See, their idea of justice is vengeance. So it's not justice in the eyes of God, justice or rightness. That's what justice leads to from a biblical standpoint. Biblical justice, you punish the wrongdoers and you celebrate, you uplift the ones who are doing right. No, it's the opposite. We're going to punish the ones that are innocent and uplift the criminals. We're going to teach the fact that the way things are set up as far as grades, as far as things with testing, they're wrong. They're systemically biased. So know what we're going to do? We're going to dumb down the educational grading scale. We're going to say, no, it doesn't matter if you make an A or not. Don't try to do your best, because trying to do your best is racist. Trying to do your best is a product of white supremacy. So no, child of color, don't strive to be best. Don't strive to do well in academics. No, we're going to teach you how to be a radical. We're going to teach you how to relate emotionally to your senses, to be emotionally driven, to be feelings driven, to reject truth, to have no objective truth, but everything is selective. Everything is relative truth, secular humanism, all those things. We're going to teach you. That's why we have things such as social emotional learning, so that you can understand the people that are different than you. You can understand the marginalized people. You can relate to them socially, emotionally. Tap into your feelings. Tap into your feelings. Forget about achievement. It's not about achievement. It's about producing people that are easily pliable, that can be easily bent to the will of those in the power. That's what they're doing. They want to easily bend the will of our children in the future to those who are in power. That's the only reason they're pushing these things. That's why they want quote unquote educational justice. But it's really educational vengeance, educational retribution, educational retaliation. That is what they're pushing towards. And so that's why they want to do that in the classroom. They want to turn our children into sheep. They want to have engineering, social engineering, take place in our schools to bring about what they call educational justice. And they're using the classroom for it. And it's all baked upon the 1619 Project. It's all based upon the idea that racism is baked into the fabric of America. So every institution has to be torn down. Everything has to be branded as vile, as racist, as a producer of white supremacy, in order to validate the reason why we need to tear it down. Everything is placed in that light. Everything is seen through the eyes of race, because they know that's the thing that can be used to bring a wedge between people. That's the thing that can be used to balkanize us, to put it in different groups. Why do you think they have all these different affinity groups in the classroom, in schools, where you separate children based upon external features? You separate children based upon their race or ethnicity, to divide them, to tell the black children that white child is your problem. That white child is your problem. No, they are teaching our children of color, and this is what is so frustrating and so aggravating to me. They're teaching our children of color that they have no agency. They're really teaching them white supremacy. They're making our children of color be invisible, because when you see that you cannot achieve on your own, it's outside of yourself whether or not you achieve, it's all based upon someone else, then you have no agency. You have no control of your life. You have no control of your life. And so that devalues the purpose of living. That devalues the purpose of life. And so it causes our children to not have a value of achievement. It causes our children not to value work. It causes our children to see themselves as less than, to see themselves as substandard, that they will never be able to achieve greater than the white person that's over them, that they will never be able to achieve greater than the white person that's over them.
What would schooling look like for Black students if they didn't have to walk hallways in straight, quiet lines like prison? What would schooling look like if educators centered the well-being of Black students instead of school codes of conduct?
A lot of what schooling does is to not affirm, is to make Black children and Black people and brown people feel inferior from the inception, right? We start this with just very young children in general, where we see them as full of deficits, focus on the things they can't do, but it's even done to a further extreme with Black children, right? Where they're not only a deficit, their whole family and their whole culture and their whole people are a deficit, right? So we have to address that.
And so you know what happens? In line with Dr. Bruce Banner, who is educational justice, the Hulk alter ego comes out. The angry comes out. The anger comes out. Because I will be angry too. If you would tell me that this person is the one that's holding me back, this person has something that they're withholding from me, it's because this person biases that I am being substandard and I'm being oppressed, quote unquote, then yes, the Hulk will come out. Anger will come out. And it leads to these things that you're seeing. It leads to the children feeling abandoned. It leads to the children feeling lonely. Feeling as if they have no other way. And so the Hulk does come out in these children. And it's all planned, it's all intentional. Because they're using the emotions, they're using our children to drive a wedge between not just ethnicities and races, but between parents and children. I mean, white supremacy is at the heart of everything that they do. To them, whiteness is dominant. Anybody else is not. It's not about teaching our children how to read and write. No, they're socially engineering our children. And why they're doing that, they're socially engineering our children in their image and their likeness. Not allowing them to flourish because they're made in God's image and likeness. No, they want to socially engineer our children in their image and likeness. Because like I said before, once you're able to make them pliable and malleable, you can turn them. They're like putty in your hands. You can mold and shape them into the little radical that you want them to be. You can mold and shape them into the little radical that you want them to be, to bring about your quote-unquote educational vengeance. Not educational justice, educational vengeance. You can take their minds, the minds that they have, their precious minds. You can manipulate that and use that against them. You can use that against them and against society. You can press those buttons to drive anger, to drive outrage, to lead them to express themselves like the Hulk did when Bruce Banner got angry. It's all intentional. It's all a trick. It's all a game. But I'm here to tell you, we are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. And I push back against any attempt by the Woke Avengers to utilize our children for their agenda. So that's why I encourage educational opportunities. I encourage parental choice. I encourage educational freedom. In particular for Black and brown children who are brought up in these failing schools intentionally. That's another trick that they have. They have these students in these failing schools and they blame the affluent community. As I say, the reason why we're not doing so well is because they're taking all the money. No, it's intentional. You have plenty of money to go around. You choose to allow these schools to remain in their condition. You'd rather them not learn how to read and write, but be little radicals. So I push back against that. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. I implore you parents, stand up for your children. Push back against this educational justice, this educational retribution, this educational retaliation that the woke agenda has. They're looking to bring about a pound of flesh. They want blood. And they're using our children to do it. But we are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. Thank you so much for liking your comments and subscribing to the channel. Please share this with your friends. Smash that like button. Smash the subscription bell. Share this with everybody you know. We're trying to make sure people understand that they're not victims, that they are empowered for greatness, and all this stuff that's out here that's telling them otherwise is false and will not benefit them in the end. So please, I appreciate that. Share that.